Seven Blue Skies channel presents Paranormal, Book 31, Part 3, Her Legend by Dr. Ahmed Khalid Tawfiq. And if you're enjoying these books, kindly like, subscribe, and comment to support this translation project and get notified about more content coming very soon. In the evening, we parted. I went back to my apartment. No need to confess that Maggie's visit to Egypt had been totally ruined. The imminent danger ruined any hopes of her enjoying her visit. I sat in the living room, having brought a pen and paper, and, per my habit, started writing down the important points in this case. Sometimes the explanation is born on paper, and sometimes it's more complicated. Most importantly, as always, is that I understand for sure exactly what I know. 1. There are several crimes of murder. My intelligence confirms that. 2. It's clear that the perpetrator is what they call a serial killer. 3. It's imperative that he executes 7 crimes. He has finished 5 of them successfully. Maybe his fascination with the numerical sequence style is a game he adopted from Agatha Christie's stories. And maybe that's some kind of message. I don't know. 4. The killer knows the 7 of them. They are all from one gang in Dundee University, among them one who studied engineering, and among them one who studied literature or physics. Is he the 8th from the gang? 5. Andrew McPherson, Maggie's friend, is in Egypt now. This is really suspicious. So was he in Greece when Tabitha died? In Japan when Mackenzie died? It's impossible for him to hide these facts. 6. And if it was Andrew, what is his relation to this doomed gang? 7. And this is the most important question. Does Maggie know more than she told me? That has always been her style. She's one of those people who tend to speak in a piecemeal fashion. 8. And this is the super important question. Who is going to die tomorrow? Elizabeth or Maggie? At least I know the answer to that question. I went into my bedroom, lifted the mattress, and retrieved my gun, which I hadn't used in ages. When was the last time I fired a bullet from it? During the Assas story? Maybe, but it won't be the last time. The comforting force of the cold black metal in my hand. I know Maggie won't get murdered tomorrow. 5. Let the day end quickly. Her legend is that she conquered my subconscious, without the infantry and without a fleet's cannons. I spent a black night, blacker than Rasputin's beard and Dracula's cape, and I went on dreaming childish dreams, unfortunately, such that my forehead almost became sweaty from embarrassment. Here she is in the jungle, falling screaming into the water. A damned crocodile emerges from the bottom, opening his terrible jaws. And then the amazing Rifat jumps in, bare-chested, waving his dagger, and wrestles with the crocodile, holding it by its tail, and then ties it into a knot and throws it afar. Maggie has been kidnapped by the Nazis and imprisoned in Eagle Castle. Amazing Rifat kicks down the door and enters carrying a huge machine gun. The Nazis fly everywhere and their blood splatters. Maggie looks at me in amazement, and finally she understands that I am the man who suits her. Her lovely hand caresses my bald head and an alarm goes off. It's the ringing of the alarm clock. Damn! It's the day. I rushed to the hotel and called her from the lobby phone to let her know I was waiting for her in the lobby. That's what I did every morning. After a while she came down, and I realized from her messy hair and swollen eyelids that she had a bad night, and that her morale was crappy. She didn't say so exactly, but she mentioned a similar English word with the same meaning. "What's the itinerary today?" she asked while sipping her coffee. Flipping through the newspaper, I answered, "Our priority is to find a place where you can't get slaughtered, or drowned, or shot with a sniper rifle, or thrown from a great height." "And where is this place?" she asked sarcastically. "In a cemetery?" "I have something similar to a grave. My apartment. You'll spend today at my place, and tomorrow is another day." "Okay," she consented. "I was going to suggest something like that to you." We went to Dutty in my car. I had given my offer. but I kept asking myself about the genius way in which I could have her come up to my apartment without the neighbors seeing and cursing me. They often cursed me when I accommodated Hind Shukan, and he's a Tibetan monk. So what will they do when I host a pretty Scottish guest? It's 11 a.m., so my building should be mostly empty, and I won't be seen except by maybe the kid from the dry cleaners. I remembered Braxa, the graveyard beauty, and I was shaken. At the entrance of the building, the doorman was absent, as he moonlights by working part-time as a valet, to boost his income. And you never find him except at the beginning of the month, when he gets his monthly pay. We went up to my apartment without problems. I opened the door for her, and she entered, sniffing the air in curiosity, and her hands never left her coat pockets. With a blunt affect, she asked, "So, this is where you live?" "Don't be scared. I got rid of the bats and snakes yesterday," I said while making a magician's movements, hiding a pair of pajama pants thrown on a chair, kicking a shoe into a corner, covering a tea stain with a tablecloth. "Oh, where are you, something?" Checking out my place, Maggie said in a sardonic way, "Now I really believe there is no woman in your life." "You mean because there's no potpourri or air fresheners?" "No woman can stand all this mess," she cried. "I have seen rubbish dumps cleaner and more organized than this place." "Well, thank you," I said with pride. "Anyway, there is a woman in my life." "Really?" "Yes," I answered, "and her name is Hassan or Saad. I don't really know. And it's not my fault that her husband beats her about the head with a bottle of oil and threatens her with divorce if she leaves home again. Apparently she refused to give him her pay, as he would buy hash with it." "I get it," she said, without understanding anything, of course. And she took off her coat and sat on the couch. For a moment I didn't know what to do. This whole thing was like a dream. I told her that I would be right back, and I turned on the TV for her only to find there was no morning broadcast in the year 1969. I brought her a stack of English books and a photo album. I went down to the street and brought a takeaway meal for two, along with eggs and bread for dinner. I wish I knew how people invite others to a meal. I went back home, but I didn't find her in the living room. I went to my home office and found her sitting, flipping through some medical books, among them Chamberlain's old book I bought in Scotland. And, of course, she noticed that delicate face with golden hair drawn in the margins of the books. "Is this me?" she asked gently. She said it with confidence. She said it with gratitude. "Who else but you?" There were poems by Shelley and lyrics from a romantic song, and a paper napkin she had thrown away but I had kept between the pages. She regarded me with her clear blue eyes and whispered, "Forever?" "What?" She clarified, "Meaning you'll be mine forever?" "And until all the stars burn out, and until—" And here the doorbell rang. For 15 years I've been trying to finish that last sentence, and every time something must interrupt me. The Loch Ness Monster, or Sir MacKillop's ghost, or the doorbell ringing. I myself wished to know what I was going to say next. I left her in my office and rushed to the door. And before reaching for the doorknob, my hand tightened on my gun as, who knows? "Maggie, stay to the right!" "No!" But the music covered the screams. The visitor was Azit. Azit at noon? That's strange. He was casually dressed, eating some salty crackers, and as soon as he saw me he exclaimed happily, "Good morning, Rifat." "Good morning. You getting up today early is a miracle." Crumpling up the cracker package and throwing it in my garbage bin, he said, "It's out of my control. I was awoken by that foreigner friend of yours. I told him there was no way you were home." Astonished, pondering what he had just said, I interrupted him. "What? Foreigner? My friend? What did he say?" "Nothing. He was speaking in broken Arabic, like Khwaja Bijou. He asked for you, as he's your friend, and I directed him to your apartment, though I was about to thrash him because I didn't get enough sleep. He rang the doorbell and knocked on your door several times, and then he came back in despair and left you this note, and he handed me an envelope containing a folded paper." "And what did he look like?" I questioned. "I don't know. He looked like someone not easily conquered. though he pretends the opposite. And he's good at pretending to be pessimistic, but he's actually optimistic. The blood rushed to my head, so I shouted, on the verge of a heart attack, You? I didn't ask for a psychoanalysis or a test of your physiognomic abilities. I want to know if he's tall or short, or with a mustache or not." Signs of understanding appeared on his dusky face. He pondered for a moment and then said, "I don't know. He's a foreign guy. They all look alike. He was clean-shaven. Is that enough?" "Okay, Ozit, thanks. Listen, I won't invite you in because it looks like you're in a hurry." "Yeah, I am. I've been dreaming of actually seeing Cairo in the daylight." And so I closed the door, my mind racing. What's the meaning of this foreign man coming here asking for me? Anyway, I can just read the note. Written on the nice stationery in neat handwriting was a single sentence. "We're so close." I expected something like this. The threat is clear and obvious, and able to reach my home. I went back to Maggie in the office. She was flipping through the pages of Chamberlain's book, surely oblivious to the exchange that took place at my door. Should I tell her? There's no need. Her worrying won't help anything. But Maggie is very smart, as you know. She read the whole story on my face and asked, "There's horrible news, right?" "Yes," I conceded. "It might be a joke." "But a day like this is no time for jokes," she said. "Come on, surprise me." I handed her the paper and she read it carefully. Then she asked me who wrote it. So I told her. She asked me about his appearance. So I told her. A man who looks like he's completely in despair, but he's actually optimistic. "Are you joking?" "That's all my neighbor Ozet got from him. Ozet has uncanny intuition. Anyway, the man was clean-shaven." "Is Andrew McPherson clean-shaven?" "Clean-shaven?" she wondered absent-mindedly while closing the book and returning it to its spot in the library. Strange. Andrew is bearded. Anyway, it's always possible to shave the beard. And it might not be him. So what's the meaning of all this?" "It means that this person is really clever," I said, thinking maybe he followed my car. "Or maybe he's been watching us for days. He knows my connection to her very well. As Maggie was not yet in my apartment when he left this message, he wanted me to tell her all this." And the hours passed tensely. When is this terrible day going to end? Will it end at midnight Cairo time, or... And is protecting Maggie enough to dissuade him from his attempt? Maybe he will try, and at that point it would be my duty to take extra caution. And maybe he won't try. He may delay the appointment until tomorrow. A minor attempt at cheating in the game. Why not? The keys are in his hands. So will Maggie be threatened like this forever? We sat in the living room watching TV, a silly children's show, Ducky Duck and Bobby the dog and Bispis the cat. Stupid old puppets, boring dialogue. But we were anxious, so we watched this stupid show with keen interest. And then we started laughing. I looked at the time. 8 p.m. We hadn't even eaten lunch yet. We had lost our appetite. Also, I hadn't said one sweet word to her. Who has the clarity of mind for romance in the midst of this foreboding tension? She was sitting cross-legged on the couch, following the TV show, not understanding a word of it. A small cat needing someone's protection. Even if that someone was Rifat Ismail. 9 p.m. A boring TV presenter asking a ponderous guest, "Do you think, sir, that work is a virtue and a good deed?" Relaxing in his chair, his round belly protruding, the guest tells her, "My personal opinion, which most people disagree with, is that work actually is a virtue and a good deed. I say that honestly and sincerely." While picking at her fingernails, Maggie asked, "What are they talking about now?" Embarrassed, I answered, "They're talking about the nuclear future of Egypt." And then I stood up, thinking to make some tea. "No, I won't boil the eggs yet. But I have to do something until 10 p.m. or I'll go crazy." "Are all the doors shut?" "Of course. The balcony door is shut, and the windows and apartment door are shut." And here a terrible notion came to me. Could the killer be with us in the apartment? Why not? Maybe he snuck in this morning after making sure we weren't home. And now he's waiting, maybe behind the bedroom curtain or under the bed or dining table. Maybe he was with us this whole time and we're not. And here, the lights went out, and I heard Maggie scream. 6. The tension. Her legend is that she is a piece of poetry, a piece of history. The flame under the teapot was enough to see by. I reached for the candle I always keep on the counter, and I lit it. And I rushed to the living room. I had gotten my gun out of my pocket. By the dim, dancing light, I saw her. She was standing on the couch, covering her face with her hands, with a terrified look in her eyes as she saw me. Have you ever seen candlelight shining on blue eyes? It's frightening. It's okay, I said, trying to comfort her. This happens a lot. And then I realized she was not just scared. She was actually scared of me. Her eyes hadn't stopped looking at the gun in my hand. She was seeing it for the first time here. And apparently she assumed something. Please don't. Don't kill me. Looking at the gun dumbly, I mumbled, You think I'm him, Maggie? That I was patiently playing a clever game to make you fall into a trap? You cut off the power. With sadness, putting the gun on the couch next to her, I told her, That's what I can't stand. I'm included in your circle of suspicion. And no apology from you will help explain your situation. I thought what's between us is stronger than paranoia. But I was wrong. And I turned my back on her, saying disgustedly while returning to the kitchen, Fine, that's it. Take the gun and defend yourself. Or kill me. It doesn't matter. That was enough. Her shaky voice came to me. Rifat, come back. I acted disinterested. Rifat, take your gun and come back and protect me. I kept walking toward the kitchen. Rifat, damn you, you bald broomstick, you snake pretending to be a lizard. That was enough. Her outburst was enough to calm her. I returned to her and we sat in the dancing candlelight. I felt her small head diving into my chest and shaking. She was crying. I'm sorry, she murmured. I didn't say anything. She has all right in saying what she thought. Rifat, forever? What? Are you going to stay with me forever? Until all the stars burn out, I said. And until... Suddenly, she stood in a dramatic move and shouted, Shh! Listen! There's some sound coming from your office. Guys, I know women to some extent. At the least, I know these hysterical warnings with which they interrupt stories. That's why I didn't pay much attention to what she said. But I remembered the notion that came to me in the kitchen a few minutes ago. We better check for ourselves. I got up with her and took her hand. If I left her here, she could have died of fear. And we cut a path through the apartment jungle. You know this shadow dance, in which it turns out there is a murderer waiting in every corner, and behind every door a ghost waiting to attack, and under every table a watcher? The Red Room story by H.G. Wells really is immortal, and appeals to all shadow haters like myself. But nothing, just a strange sound coming from the kitchen. With Maggie behind me, I entered the kitchen, taking the stance of a Special Forces soldier we see in American movies, my back to the wall, the muzzle of my gun upwards. And then I jumped in, holding the gun with both hands. Oh, if my late mother could see me now, she would die of joy. Maggie raised the candle higher. The sound was the sound of the teapot from which all the water had evaporated. I refilled it, and I cast about until I found a small flashlight. And I went with it to continue searching for the hidden killer. But why did the power go out? My angel, I told her gently, the power not cutting would be worrisome. Try to forget this conspiracy theory. We had finished searching. Nothing. There was no one in the apartment but us. And the fear, of course. A man and a woman, and their third is fear. We sat in the dark drinking tea. Just silence and heavy breathing. And then, tuck, tuck, tuck. Maggie's eyes widened with fear. I wished she would stop freaking out. She looks so scary when she's scared. Someone was knocking on the door insistently. My body stiffened up as well, and I felt the gun. "Rifat," Maggie pleaded, "don't open it. Are you going to open it?" Relaxing a little, I whispered, "Oh, really? You think I'm crazy? Anyone coming to visit me at 11 p.m. in this pitch darkness would definitely be a robber or someone telling me about a disaster. All reasons which compel me not to open the door." And I smiled while sipping the tea, saying, "I'm here, and you're here, and my mom and dad are deceased, so I won't worry about them anymore. That means the outside world is nothing to me. Let the storm roar, as Buddha says." And here the knocking returned, even stronger. Tug, tug, tug. He's insistent. He plans not to leave before shattering our nerves. Tug, tug, tug. Then a girl's raspy voice. "Dr. Rifat, please. Are you there?" A girl? Who is she? "I'm Naglat, Mr. Zachariah's daughter. Please, if you're there, please open up." Naglat? At my door? And in an hysterical state? It must be that her dad has died or is on the verge of death. I almost got up to check, but Maggie's hand gripped me tightly. "Don't go. It's a trap." Yes, I too suspect it's some kind of trick. My head is full of stories of fools who open the door when they shouldn't. But the voice kept calling, "Dr. Rifat, please. My dad is unable to speak. Please." Here the matter had become stronger than I could stand, so I got up. Of course, I don't want to leave Maggie here alone in the dark, but I'll find a good excuse to explain her presence in my apartment. Therefore, I must. "Are you going to leave me?" she asked. "The man is dying, Maggie. I'll see what's happening and then come back to you. It'll only take a few minutes." "You're an idiot," she cried. "Maybe, but I'm also a doctor. An idiot doctor, if you will. But I can't find an out from this congenital defect." I grabbed my bag and left the gun to Maggie, of course. And I joined Naglat, who stood at my door, disheveled, crying, hysterical, shaky and pale. She was carrying a small lantern and asked me, "Why didn't you answer, since you're here?" "I was asleep, or almost. Let's go." By the light of the candle and the lantern, this whole thing seemed like a nightmare. But this was a case of intracranial hemorrhage. Any child could recognize it. Nothing can be done at home except one thing. He has to be moved to a hospital immediately. His case was more critical than I thought. Frightened female faces surrounded me in the candlelight, and the usual stupid questions. "Is it hopeless? Can he be healed? Let's try to treat him here at home. Why not? Is it because of the eggplant he ate for lunch?" Only the wife was smarter than the others. She rushed to the phone and called the ambulance, and then she pleaded with me. "Of course you'll stay here with us, Dr. Rifat?" Of course. We're not delaying you for something, right?" Yes, it's okay." Surely there was no use trying to convince them that my accompanying them would be of no use. But it's the obligatory empathy. It must be shown. And woe to the one who attempts to avoid the matter with unacceptable excuses. But Maggie, I must tell the miserable girl. Should I take her with me? No way. Should I call her to spend the intervening hours here? Impossible. Then there's no avoiding going with them. And I hope the case stabilizes quickly. Luckily, the matter only took 2 hours. 2 hours for the man to stabilize in an ICU bed. The doctor started IV mannitol and Lasix, everything which would expedite draining even the Amazon basin itself. It seemed he was going to live. He would go through bleak days at first and then improve gradually. And now it was time to escape and move from the role of Dr. Koch to the role of Sherlock Holmes, because in my flat there is a lady whose life is in danger. After another half hour I drove home. The power had returned, like a long-missed guest. I opened the door of my apartment. The TV was on, playing the American Night movie, and the remnant of the candles had become featureless wax, and the 2 cups of tea on the table were empty, and other details you don't notice in the dark. But my pretty client wasn't there. Maggie had totally evaporated from the scene. My heart pounding, I rushed about, looking for her in all the rooms. Not here, and not here. Could she have... Finally, I found her in my office. She was sitting on the carpet, the phone dangling next to her. She was teary-eyed and stunned, looking down at her feet in a daze. I sat on the carpet next to her and asked her calmly about... He called me, she murmured. Who? That man? Yes, and he told me, 1 and no second. You'll know about the 7th in 1 day. And he hung up before I could say a word. Looking at her, stunned, I said, but that means... It means that I wasn't the 6th victim, and that he knows for sure that I'm here. End of part 3.